You want
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Have roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Gus?
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? You're muted.
Here.
Mr. Winkler?
Here. This, Rochester Invocation, stay standing for pledge allegiance, please. Our Father, we come here tonight to conduct the business of Swiss Lottery School District. Please give us your guiding hand and help us and help all the students in our district get over this COVID. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're down to approval agenda. I got a question to ask. Down river, at the baseball field, they want to put a bullpen in at no cost to district. Should we just approve it on here since it's not on here?
It's not gonna be any cost to the district?
No cost to district. Mark's back here. I mean, before we approve the agenda, it's no cost to district, all volunteer.
The only question I would have is, you have to do something as far as being on school grounds and
Yeah.
something like, make sure there's a
Yeah,
waiver of
insurance.
and stuff, liability.
Yeah, that's why I thought put it on the board. We approve it. We do it all the time, no cost to district. So I'd like to put that under new business. So it gets started.
That'd be my only issue, it would be.
Yeah, that was mine too, yeah. So can we add that under new business, Connie?
What is it for?
Building the bullpen at River High School.
Bullpen?
Yeah, for the pitcher and catcher. If I'm wrong, Mark, explain again. That's what it's called.
At River
Yeah.
High School?
Yeah, it'd be right by the dugout. There'll be a 100-foot wall, roughly 5 foot high, fence, pitcher's mound, and catchers for visiting. But Jerry and I met the other day down there with them, and they had volunteers and everyone there. And then another thing, under the first executive session, we won't need that because we're going to try to have a special meeting to do away with, talk about the administrative thing we have on tonight. So I'd like to pull it. Anyone else have anything? So we need a motion to accept the agenda as amended then, right?
So moved.
I'll second it. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry.
All right. First right, and then Ronnie second?
Yeah.
Motion to approve agenda as amended, add new business item to add bullpen at River High School baseball field, and
To remove the first executive session.
first executive session.
Yes.
Okay, you should be able to. Sarah, are you having problems with the voting box?
Hold on. No, I'm actually having trouble with my screens, but there we go. Yeah, I voted.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
We're down to public, motion carried, I'm sorry. Public participation. No one has anything?
I never had anything.
All right, we can go on to the superintendent's report, cabinet.
All right, before I go to the cabinet, they'll elaborate on part of the majority of it. I just want to touch base, let the board know that we did have our freshmen and sophomores, tour Swiss Hills this past week. From all accounts, from what I understand, we have quite a few kids that are very interested in attending. I don't know if Mr. Romig's going to touch base on the exact numbers. I don't know them right offhand, but he may when he talks about it. But it was very productive, and we're glad we got that done as soon as we did. I think last year it was a little bit later in the year, and we're glad to get it accomplished, have for them to tour the building and look at some of the programs that are offered out there. One other thing, the Teacher Evaluation Committee met this past week. Mrs. Bohatch and I were involved in that, and it was a very productive meeting. We're not done yet, but we will meet again at the end of this month, and hopefully we can have it done in one more meeting and have our committee and change the evaluation policy. So we hope to have that wrapped up here soon as well. With that being said, I'll turn it over to some of our cabinet members. First off, Mr. Cosby, anything?
Sure. Yeah, just real quick, looking at staffing needs for next school year, and currently at Powhatan Elementary, we don't have a self-contained classroom. And we're getting some students coming in from the preschool that are probably going to need that service. So right now, checking the numbers, the enrollment's coming in, and I'll have more concrete numbers by the April board meeting. But it's looking like right now we're going to have at least 5 or 6 students that would benefit from the services of a self-contained classroom. So we didn't replace the girl that was in that position because we moved her to the behavioral classroom. So that left that open. Some of those students just went with her, and now we're getting additional students in. So there possibly may be a need there. So, but I'll sum it up next board meeting. I should have the numbers by then. That's pretty much all I have.
All right, thank you. I don't know who all we got on remote. Well, no, Mr. Romig?
Yes, Curtis.
Curtis will be with
Okay.
Jennifer.
Okay.
Thing. March 2nd, the governor came out with new orders. They came out with new orders for the schools and gatherings and things. And I know that you have a new business also with Road Central. They have a request on there wanting to know. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about also. Under the director's order, they issued the kind of the same thing. They've upped some of the allowances. They upped it to 25% on indoor capacity. They upped it to 30% on outdoor capacity. They state now they want as soon as possible the probability of having a MERV 13 filtration system. That's what I've sent Mr. George to texture that, and he may be able to answer that if we have any of that in the district currently. But the variances they have in its public and private gatherings, no more than 10 people. One of the questions that we have is we've had requests for sports banquets, we've had requests, we have proms and everything coming down the road. I know the governor had issued a statement that proms and graduations, they haven't really decided yet. They're to issue something forthcoming with that in the next month or so. We just completed basketball season and everything, and we were permitted 15% in the gymnasiums and that. So, you know, the question is, sports banquets, some of the gatherings and things like that, how the board wants to proceed with those, or what guidelines they want to follow there for discussion.
Well, I mean, what do you think? What's your recommendation?
Well, you know, I think that,
Follow the guidelines.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and I've talked to a couple people about it, and, a couple coaches had some recommendations. I think everybody had their own little twist on it, but if it is you're probably gonna have less people there, because it's probably only gonna be parents and not fans. Spread them out in the gym, have the participants spread out just like you normally would, hand their, no food, get out of there in a half an hour, whatever it takes, you know,
Right,
have your little
yeah.
speeches and go, and, I mean, I was never one for that type of thing, you know, but I realize it's more for the parents, I think, than the kids, for the recognition, and if that's something they can do, and, you know, we've been going through this for over a year now, and they're permitting us to be in the gyms and do things in different capacity, I'm in favor for it, if it's for the kids.
you know, I know we've just set, you know, we set up basketball games and kids ran up and down the court against each other and were sweating and everything else. We had wrestling matches and, you know, all those different things and that. So, you know, to say, well, your two parents can't come in and, you know, hear the coach talk about them and receive a letter or that, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, well, what are you doing? You just did this.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, well, you can't do this.
Well, and I look at it as long as we're following the guidelines, as long as we are keeping it under
Well, we'll be under
the
because,
occupancy,
yeah,
whether it's 30% outdoors or 25% indoors, you know, and whoever's wanting to put on this banquet, they know that in advance, and they need to know then, okay, what venue are we going to use, and how many bodies are we able to put in there?
yeah,
And like you said, it's going to be mostly the athletes,
I mean, that
students,
means the parents, right?
and parents,
Right.
maybe grandparents.
Yeah, I mean, you can limit that, I mean, again, that's based on
Capacity.
capacity.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we allowed the youth sports to have 9 million kids for the wrestling tournament these past 2 weekends, and I heard good and bad, mostly good, but, yeah, if we're allowing that, I certainly think that high school, especially the seniors, deserve something, you know, especially if it's a kid that doesn't play anything else other than basketball, you know, I think they deserve to have the recognition.
And
I think there's been a few even football banquets have been held off that they didn't do anything, you know, kind of hoping that something.
Maybe they, well, I mean, still, I think you'd have under the capacity.
Right.
I mean, how many did you guys have at basketball games? What was your allowance?
We were allowed because we had a variance, but even at the 15%, we were allowed 197.
Yeah, you won't have that many people at banquet, even if you combine football and basketball.
Right. And we never went over the 197. I think 181 was our biggest crowd.
Yeah.
what's the protocol on food? Because I know you mentioned food.
Yeah.
I think that would be a touchy thing, because
Well,
there's no
I mean-
concession at games, right?
I think that's a good point, because the protocol with the food with the county health department was you can't bring anything in.
Well, I know when I went through my quarantine, one of the questions they asked me was, well, don't you guys pass around food down at, board meetings? I said, no. I mean, there was when I first, I said, I wish.
You haven't seen it yet, huh?
I said, I'm waiting on it.
It's not making it around there.
I can remember one night the pizza man showed up at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I disagree with you.
That was
Yeah.
prior COVID.
Yeah, so,
Mark,
Right.
I mean, I think you open up a whole new thing there if you talk about bringing food.
Well,
Yeah.
the only reason I bring that up is because we got proms coming up also. And I know sometimes they have stuff catered. Now, I don't know what the deal is if you have stuff catered.
Yeah,
You know,
anything,
we would definitely have to check in and make sure we are following all restrictions and all guidelines. I don't know if you can have
My
something
theory
catered.
is if we could play basketball games down at River, I was down there several times, a lot of people, they can have proms, they can have graduations and everything else.
Right.
It's time we open it back
And,
up.
yeah, but what I'm asking about is food.
Catering, if you cater and hand it to a person, I think you can do it.
Well, I'm sure there's
Not
guidelines
with-
and
yeah.
restrictions of what you can and what you can't
Yeah.
do. As
Yeah.
long as they are following those guidelines.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
not a potluck.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
If it's catered, they hand it to you,
Yeah.
and every time you come back,
I mean, really, is a meal at a banquet that important, I guess is what I'm trying to
No, at a
say.
banquet,
If that's
yeah.
one thing you
I
can,
don't believe they want meals.
I don't think,
I've
been told,
yeah, I talked to one coach and he said,
just want direct and
I don't
Right.
care about the meal, and the meal's just an extra thing anyway, so, you know, so.
Do we have to vote on this?
not
I don't know if it's is it a change, and it's not a change, is it?
Right, you have a capacity level now. The only thing probably would just be the board. And really, the food is the same way, because the food, you already know the guidance from the health department and everything, you can't bring food in. You know, it has to be pre-packaged or something like that, or brought in.
A lot of things might change now till then too, with the government, you know.
Right, right.
West Virginia, they're opening up big time over there, so it might come here, you know.
But that way, it's the same across the district, everybody knows the same, and they have the same set of guidelines
Well,
that.
let me throw this out at you with the situation at River Elementary right now. What if we get into a situation like that in a building in a specific attendance area? And I think you gotta put restrictions on that, because that could compound it exponentially.
Right.
So they gotta be under a certain percentage. And because we've been doing that as an attendance area, putting certain schools on remote, everybody else still going. And that's been, what, a week for River now?
It'd be the same way if they're on remote, they can't
Yeah,
have a banquet.
so technically River Elementary couldn't host a banquet at this point in time.
No.
That's kind of what I'm looking
No,
at.
that's the situation. If River Elementary had a banquet scheduled there this evening,
It would be,
it would have to been postponed and changed to
That's-
another date. No, I mean, another thing though, field trips, going outside, the area, different places.
I don't agree with that.
Well, we haven't opened them up yet, though. No, that's what I'm saying, that's what I was asking, because I wanna make sure.
and even prom right now, I don't know how prom, because isn't there a social distancing with the mandates for the sports things, even the seating, and players have to sit, so how could you have a prom and dancing
6 feet apart.
6 feet apart? I mean, I guess you could do it. Draw
Line dance, 6 feet apart.
Like during
Yeah. Put blocks on the gym floor.
Yeah,
No blocks on your 6 foot.
the governor's supposed to come out with guidelines later on prom graduation.
Yeah.
But
We can revisit that later then.
So we're okay with banquets? Yeah.
Yeah.
Proms, as
long
long as we're following the
I am.
guidelines?
Just the same thing as the youth sport type thing, I think you.
Field
as long
trips?
as the guidelines are.
Not yet,
No field trips.
no field trips, all right,
I mean, that's me.
and I would agree.
Now, they have that one, that they usually have at the fairgrounds, that's just our students.
They didn't do it
It's like fifth grade. I mean, what do you,
Field day.
yeah, the field day, what do you think? I mean, that's just our students.
I don't know if they're doing that.
Well, they may not be.
Yeah, they canceled it last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's through,
I mean,
Broken Timbers?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
stormwater.
Yeah, soil and water.
Ditch service and all that.
That's right.
We will know more by the time that one comes
Okay.
around, but in the meantime, right now, I just,
Right.
Need to look
Most
at
of them
the
are out of the county, but I thought of that one. That's, I believe, fifth grade that does that.
right now, we're strictly, field trips are off limits yet.
Huh? I mean, you're on recording too.
Hey, could you guys scan the handouts to me? And if there's any other handouts coming up, could you go ahead and scan those?
What's the room up here?
You want them right now?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'll save you a set here, Ms. Smith. Okay, the second handout is, the athletic directors, we've all talked in that, and one of the things this year, just wanted to kind of bring it up and make you aware of, each athletic department, you'll have Bellsville, River, and Monroe Central there. The difference in receipts from last year to this year. They're running anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 difference in receipts, gate receipts that we took in from fall sports and winter sports combined. And we waited until we got both those, because those are the two revenue generating areas that we have, basically. And when we get to the spring sports season, some of us have the ability to collect a little bit at the gate, but not too much with baseball and softball. Some don't. As you go through the different revenues and that and everything, one of the most important things, and I met with a group today to go over what to buy for football. And one of the things that we're against in that, the reconditioning you have to send out and you have to get done. That's mandatory. It's mandatory. You have to get it done. So, that usually runs in a range of $2,000 to $3,000. Each of us tries to replenish kind of a rotation of buying X amount of helmets, X amount of shoulder pads each year, so that in the 4-year period you turn over, 4 to 5 year period you turn them over, and 5 years from now that one you bought 5 years ago is going out the door. Today we met with the guy, and we had to buy, we bought basically less helmets and less shoulder pads than we ever have before in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Simply because, we went through the winter sports season, and I know a lot of schools, they basically tried to somewhat freeze their expenditures. The same way with the winter sports. Last fall, we didn't buy much. Winter sports, same way. Paid for officials, things of that nature. But what I want to do is just kind of put that on your radar, and any discussion on it. Okay, well, thank you, I appreciate it. As Mr. Caldwell said, we had Monroe Central, Bellsville, and River out last week, touring the sophomores out, and we brought all the freshmen out that had an interest in the sophomore academy. We had a really, really nice turnout. The kids got to tour all the different programs. Really, really high interest with the freshmen that are coming out, the things that can be offered. We explained to them the programs that are there that are possibilities. So we're going to have them back out here at the end of the month for the ones that are committed to coming or pretty much know they're going to come. So that's a really good, and Mr. Unger, I think Mr. Unger's on here. If he wants to expound upon that, he can. Mr. Unger, are you there?
Mark, did you say how many attended?
Yeah, there was, we had 63 the second day, and we were around 85, 87 the first day. There were, let's see, 31, 25, there were almost 60 freshmen that attended. So there were really high numbers with the freshmen that had an interest in the sophomore academy. And one of the benefits there, and you have some of those kids, they know as freshmen, they want to go to Swiss Hills, and it kind of gives them that leg up if they can come that sophomore year. They have a number of possibilities there. They can come in and do a certification in the sophomore and junior year, then the senior year, either the early work placement, or they can pick up a whole other certification. So, it really opens a lot of doors for them. And the staff at Swiss Hills, they did an excellent job. The instructors, they did a super job explaining to the kids and everything, and we got a lot of positive feedback from the kids. That's all I have, Mr. Caldwell.
All right, thank you, Mr. Norman. Mr. Clutter around? He's not here, right?
Yes, Mr. Caldwell.
Oh, all right, thank you.
I'm here, yes, sir. I'm always here somewhere. Everything's been going well since we went back to all students 4 days a week. Things have been rolling along really smooth with transportation. Next Monday, the 15th, we'll have the spring trip meeting for baseball, softball, and track. So we'll see how well that goes. I've got trips and things entered into the system. And then tonight I've got on the board agenda there for the purchase of an additional 4 new buses for the district. So other than that, things have been going really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joris, anything?
No, nothing at this point. Train is still progressing with upgrades to Monroe Central's pretty well done, and they're finishing up Woodsfield Elementary, which will probably be sometime next week. And then we'll do the training with the maintenance employees on that conversion. We're installing the scoreboard at Skyview Elementary that was donated. So we'll try to get that done here before baseball and softball season gets underway at Skyview. That's it.
All right, thank you. Suzanne, you there?
I am, thank you. I just want to note that the USDA has extended the seamless summer option. That's what we're currently using to feed all of our students. They're going to extend the waivers through September 30th. So this would be, meals will continue at no cost. We would still be able to serve outside the typical required group settings and meal times. We can waive meal patterns and allow parents to pick up meals for children. This extension is really important as we move into the summer feeding program. And then they have announced that they will issue guidance for the 21-22 school year in April. So at this point, we do not know what the school program will look like when school starts next year, what waivers will be available, if any.
Thank you. Linda, anything?
Yeah, on tonight's agenda, the telemedicine RFQ, it's due back March 15th, but it needs board action to move the work forward once a company is determined, and Tess will know how many of those bids are in by the 15th. Also working on some virtual job shadowing for the welding students at VICON. That's coming up in April. We have a pending ARC grant for $250,000 for some equipment for remote learning. Should hear for the next week on that. We also are working on an ARC power grant for $1.5 million for additional programs. We'll begin working on that next week. And we also working on a dislocated worker grant. We had a visit to Tri-Rivers yesterday for some professional development for 3 major programs: construction, automotive, and manufacturing. The instructors got to visit with their instructors and pick up some activities and curriculum and credentials that they're working on. We also have a bilateral agreement with Washington State Community College. It's being prepared, and they're working on a virtual job fair with us for April. And then update on the OFCC, they're just about done with the enrollment figures, and we should hear next week. And once they're done with that, they will schedule some visits in April. That's it for now.
Okay, you mentioned something about the RFQ. That's for the telehealth project, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. For that 500,000.
Yes, 500,000 for us to be able to continue moving forward in the next phase.
Yes.
All right, yes, all right. Thank you. Last but not least, Mrs. Bohat.
So I wanted to update you first on some professional development that we recently had for our staff in grades 4 through 12, and this is on our literacy focus. So we were very fortunate to have an international presenter Zoom our group. His name is William Van Cleve, and he presented on a topic called morphology, which is basically prefixes, suffixes, word bases, and the meanings to increase vocabulary. And we had over 75% of our staff participate. 75 participants are staff, and there's probably was more, but that's how many connections were made in the Zoom, and there might have been a couple people in a room together. And then coming up on March 23rd for the kindergarten through 3rd grade, we'll have Equipped for Reading Success, presentation by David Kilpatrick, another national known presenter. This is really exciting because a lot of our teachers have already read the book, and we purchased it for other teachers who wanted to start reading the book and having this book study about how science of reading really affects those early literacy skills. And our DLT is working on looking at our recent reading tiered fidelity inventory and talking about what our areas of strength are and where our areas for improvement are in the literacy, and then what a literacy block should look like. And then we will eventually get into our local literacy plan and make up revisions to that so it's more up to date with what's happening. So one of the things that, Curtis, you want to come into? One of the things that we have more funds for is ESSER 2 funds. Currently, ESSER 1 funds we're using for our reading specialists in all 5 elementary buildings and then a lot of the COVID expenses and things. But we're getting a second round, and I understand that there's a 3rd round to come.
There is.
So right now, the second round is over $2 million over a 2-year period of time. And so what we're planning on doing is extending the reading specialists, and so that we would have 5 current reading specialists at each of the elementary buildings, doubling that, so now we would have 2 in each elementary building. In addition, adding 1 at each high school and at the Career Center. So now we're really putting more hands on deck to help with that literacy piece. Anything you want to add to that, Curtis?
They say every cloud has a silver lining, and this is an opportunity for us to services to the kids that really missed out on that academic piece through that COVID closure. So this is an opportunity for us to start that process back in place.
And then the other piece of it is, recently the governor had announced how they wanted school districts to address the learning loss for the year. And that should be, it was a recommendation to have those proposals by April 1st. The way we're looking at doing that is a summer program that would help with some of that learning loss, more targeted to the students who are behind and filling the gap over the summer. So with that, it would be a 2-year program. We're looking currently a survey out there for our staff to see what the interest is. Our initial plan, and I can share this draft copy with you, and just keep in mind that it is just a draft copy. There you go. So that's what we have come up with as our plan. Of course, the unknowns right now, how many teachers are willing to do this and how many students are willing to be here.
Sure will. Thank you.
2 years ago, we ran a credit recovery program.
Sarah.
2 years ago, we ran a credit recovery program at Swiss Hills for high school. It was very successful, and a lot of students took advantage of that. Of course, last year we couldn't do that, but looking at expanding that so that we have teachers in those content areas that are supporting that credit recovery, helping instruct that, even though the coursework would be created in the online PEAK platform, there's going to be teachers that are helping instruct that. So at the K-8, providing real specific interventions for the students in literacy and math especially, so that we're helping fill those gaps. Anything else?
Once again, it is a 2-year plan to keep this going, and hopefully with those ESSER 3 funds, we can expand it out. So this first year will be it's our first good exposure to having a good summer camp, getting those kids back, spending that learning time a little bit, but more importantly, providing that targeted intervention. So we plan on collecting the data on the kiddos before and after to see how we done, see where they're at. But the most important thing is, I think it's an opportunity for those kids to get a kick start before the beginning of the school year, so they're not losing over the summer, and they're hoping to gain back a little bit of that time lost for the COVID experience.
And some of the things we took in consideration were transportation. Could we transport those students, vans or buses, who can't get there? So removing that barrier. Also, working with Suzanne on the summer feeding program so that we're feeding the students lunch before they go home. So trying to incorporate all of this into the entire package.
Questions? Happy to answer. If you need anything, just call.
You might have to sticker. Rolf, I got a question. Are we even thinking about going back 5 days a week?
Well,
Have
we
you given any
talked about
thought?
that when we were working on testing, on our testing schedule. Do we want to stay 4 through testing?
That would be helpful just because we have the remote students, the blue sky students that need to come in and test without, the reason most of them are staying home is because they don't want to be exposed to large groups. So that the plan is if we stay on 4 days, those students would come in on the Wednesdays to test. I see both sides of it. We've lost a lot of learning. Getting kids in there 5 days is also very important. I guess my biggest plea is that whatever we decide, if we could carry it throughout the rest of the year so that we have some consistency for parents and teachers, knowing we might have to close the building, if things get worse, but we know what our plan is moving forward so we can make these plans for kindergarten registration and for testing and any other things that come up.
What's the numbers right now? No, offhand.
The last I saw was below 30.
20
Okay.
20 active cases, that what you're talking
No, how many students are remote
Oh.
in the district?
I'll pull that up.
I'm just curious, like from start to finish, are we getting them back? Are we losing some here and there? I've heard from teachers and other people and students and parents that they like the 4 days. Teachers like the 4 days because it gives them that one day to do the remote, and it's not taking their all their time. If they were back 5 days, they didn't think they could pull it off or whatever. But I haven't heard anybody really complaining about it.
No. It's been very productive. Everything I've heard on that Wednesday, it's quiet in the building because those teachers are in the building, they're working, they're doing things, they're getting things done, they're reaching out to the remote students and everything. So I think that as far as utilizing that day, it's being very productive.
That's okay. I was just curious. I know it's probably different in each attendance area.
And they're still they're not giving direct instruction, but their students still have things to do on Wednesdays. It's not just like.
Right.
It's full remote for everybody, right?
And some teachers are still Zooming
Yeah.
their classrooms live.
Now, let me ask you, did I read, or was there a House bill pertaining to whether the testing scores were going to be counted this year?
Still being considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I read that somewhere.
Now,
They haven't said either way yet?
the catch is the House didn't have enough to make it an emergency so that if the governor signed it, it would automatically become law. It's now at the Senate, from what I understand. If they don't have enough votes for it to become automatic, then even if the governor signs it, it won't come into effect until June. So after we've already tested.
Well,
So,
I guess
We have to
I've
test
heard,
regardless.
yeah,
Right.
we still have to test, but
Now, whether-
the counts,
yeah.
whether it counts.
and I know there's parents that are concerned about their testing, and I'm thinking to myself, it's not your child's fault if they don't test well, because of the situation we're under, so it's not gonna be held against them down the road, and I think that's what needs to be conveyed is, regardless of the situation, you gotta understand the amount of hours are we at 50% of the amount of hours that we would normally be there after all this is said and done? So obviously they're only getting so much instruction, so they can only be expected to know certain parts of it.
And I would think that they will be doing the same as they did last year, like when they waived the testing results. And like for high school courses, they end up giving them whatever their letter grade was in that course.
Yeah, would only make sense.
Yeah.
And,
Third
you know,
grade reading guarantee, didn't they say that?
yeah, so third grade
Mm-hmm.
can be promoted if they don't meet the proficiency or the promotable score,
Right.
unless it's determined between the parent and the principal and the teacher that that student would best served by retention as overall. But, you know, I look at it as if we have to take the assessments and federal guidelines, let's just use that as a measuring stick to see where we are. You know, how much did we lose? Or did we stay about the same? You know, just letting it be like the bathroom scales when you're trying to be on a diet, you know, you want to go have this check and see how you're doing.
Hey, while you're looking for that, can I ask a question to that? Like truancy when we're in school, we cover that, you know. How do you do it with remote?
We're counting,
The work, well,
yeah.
the amount of work that they do, I mean, because if they're assigned a certain amount of work, teacher pretty much knows approximately how long it should take that student to do it. And if they're doing an online thing, I think that's tracked that way.
Yeah, but if they aren't doing it, then what? How you know, are they there doing it, or someone else doing it for them, or what? You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that you can't.
I know, but
As a parent, I would hope that they're not doing it for them. I mean,
but I know for a fact I heard that some of them aren't doing it, and when people went to their house, they went in and answered the door or anything.
I think that should be up to parents. I mean, they've chosen to keep their students
Yeah,
at
I
home.
understand. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if a parent does that, to just keep the kid, you know, the student is the one hurting.
Yeah, the other one is a disadvantage.
Yes.
The parent should be liable for it.
And then the attendance is still running through the system.
But
so
I mean, it's hard to.
if that's the case, we'd also inform the resource officer. So
Yeah.
hopefully they
Well-
make a home visit, but like you said, if they're not going to answer the door.
Yeah, I know that. I was told they wouldn't answer the door. But I mean, when they're in school here, you know, in their truancy, I know deputies go there and they confront them in that, you know, I mean, how do we
They'd be turned into the courts as
Yeah,
well.
but I'm just saying how you keep tracking remote, you know.
Jennifer,
it's hard.
doesn't Blue Sky report to you if students aren't attending?
We get reports, twice a week, which shows the last days logged in, so we can mark them absent each day that they didn't log in over that time. Remote learning is completion of work by the week, and if they've done nothing, now they're absent 5 days, and then that starts to trigger those habitual and chronic absences, and then it goes to the absent intervention plan, which then goes to, coming up with, plans to how they're going to, and in some cases, that plan might include, you need to come back to school.
Yeah, but what I'm saying about you doing this summer academy, that would catch some of them, wouldn't it? That's why I asked.
Yes.
I thought it would. It'd help them.
Yeah, they can get an invitation, hey, you need to.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I brought it.
And it could be, help those kids that are on the borderline of being retained. Oh, maybe you become 6 weeks of intensive interventions. That might help you get ready for next year too. I mean, it's not a guarantee that just because you show up, you're going to not be retained, but it could help. It's preschool.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Tess, if you can hear me, Joy will need to share her screen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jennifer. My sound is cutting in and out, so I'm going to do my best, and hopefully you all can hear me well. Tess, am I ready to share screen?
That's the one or Cory?
Cory? Got it.
I think it's Jacob, I saw.
Oh. Baseball, high school?
One of them,
Oh, what is it?
freshman.
How many kids they got out?
Answer to your question, we have 121.
I thought they were just gonna have 9.
Who's coaching?
Hey, Joy, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I am going to make you the host of this so you can share your screen. Now, make sure when you're done to make me the host back.
Give it back
Okay.
to you, yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, it took a little bit last time. I had to go up to my name and find it to reset, but I'll make sure I do that.
Okay. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Can everyone in the boardroom see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and hit present. Okay, hopefully you can see that big on your screen there in the board meeting. Thank you for having us back. We have some updates to share on your preschool expansion potential and some of the results from our survey and other items about costs tonight for you to look over and have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. I am on, Ann Bowen is going to help me present. Jennifer Bohatch will also, and I believe Andy is on also. So there's lots of people to help with questions. Okay, the first couple slides are just a review from last time. Why expand preschool services? And we talked last time about the two best predictors are that alphabetic knowledge and phonemic awareness, which are the focuses of our local literacy plan in preschool. We also shared the chart on the next screen that shows the KRA data, the kindergarten readiness assessment data that shows that Bright Beginnings preschool students are really outperforming those other students because of their time spent in preschool. It's also important that they have access to all of those services, speech, fine motor, gross motor, social emotional interventions before they reach kindergarten to help set them up to be the best kindergarten learner they can. This was the slide we shared last time about how your students are performing on the kindergarten readiness assessment. And we showed how over the past 3 years, our students have continued to increasingly perform at that green level of demonstrating, to where even last year, your current kindergartners, 83% of our Bright Beginning students scored on the demonstrating level coming into kindergarten. So that's just a quick review. We did complete a survey. Mrs. O'Connor reached out. We completed a survey together and sent it out to every family that we could in your area. Your detailed report that you received last week said that 76 families had responded. As of yesterday, 81 had. So I was able to update this slide as of yesterday. Overall, 93% of the families who participated in that survey had students in their household, sometimes more than one, who could attend preschool in the fall. On this slide, you will see the breakdown of the area and how many families answered, and then what age student they recorded that they had in their household. So you can see that we had 14 from Bellsville, 11 from Powhatan, 17 from River, 22 from Skyview, and 17 from Woodsfield. And then you can see the breakdown there of whether they had K-ready students or 3 4-year-old students, or in some cases they had both, more than one student who could enter preschool. So we asked the question a couple different ways if they would register their student for preschool. We ask it, would you register your student if there was a K readiness classroom that went 4 days a week, where transportation was provided and they still needed to pay tuition from their family? So tuition would still be charged. To answer those questions, 77% of your families surveyed said yes, they would enroll, and 23% said maybe. In the 23%, that is 19 families. And out of those 19 families, 9 of them specifically noted that they would only consider enrolling if it was on site at their home elementary. We also asked the same question and asked if you were provided this service for free, if the district picked up the cost of tuition, would you enroll your student? At that point, the 77 increased to 93% of families surveyed said yes, they would enroll their kindergarten readiness student with a no-cost option. And 7% of families answered maybe. So your 9 families dropped to 6 families who said maybe, and they said that was the on-site issue again. They would maybe up that to a yes if they knew the location was going to be on-site in their home elementary school. Looking at these 2 slides of survey results, do you have any questions or thoughts about what you see?
I go one. When she said on site, does that mean at that school or it could be just in that area?
Well, no, they're looking at just at that school, but parents don't understand that it might just be hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So-
When you did the survey, did they know that maybe?
No, they just
Okay.
do whether it's on-site or off-site.
Yeah. I mean, it'd still be in their attendance area right there.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I can, yes.
Okay, Jennifer, I think you handled that question. Was there anything else I needed to help answer?
Anything else?
No,
I think we're good.
Okay. And I will share this PowerPoint after this evening or later this evening so that you all have access to this also. Okay. Anne, do you want to share about the 2 different ways we could do this, the 5 classrooms and the 3 classrooms?
Yeah, so we were asked to present different options for opening the proposed kindergarten readiness classes. So we have 2 options. The first one you see on your screen is option 1. That is the addition of 5 kindergarten readiness classrooms throughout the district. That looked at placing a classroom at Bellsville, Powhatan, in Woodsfield Elementary School, in River and Skyview, which currently do not have room at the schools, having an off-site location. So what we looked at for that, if adding 5 additional classrooms, 5 additional preschool classrooms, the cost for 10 teachers is approximately $770,000. And the cost for 10 classroom paraprofessionals is approximately $321,000. Overall, that is an increase of about $490,000 for a teacher and a parapro in each of the 5 new classrooms. Now, as we mentioned, River and Skyview do not have room on site, so we did go out and we toured a couple locations. In the River attendance area, we toured a classroom at the Hannibal Professional Center. It was a very nice room. We met with the Isleys and discussed rent, and rent for that would be approximately $1,300 a month. Last week, Joy had the opportunity to go meet with representatives from the Louisville Community Center. And, they gave us an estimate this week that rent would be approximately $1,000 a month for that center.
And I do have an update on that one.
Okay.
They called back this afternoon. I didn't want to change anything in the presentation that was already given to everybody. We estimated about 1,000. They did come back with about 2,000 because they're including everything in that estimate. They included utilities, snow removal. They actually included cleaning service, phone for the classroom, and upgrades. So that approximate estimate there did come back different today. I just want to make sure I clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions about that option before we move on?
Yeah, the Isley Center, no, does that include the cleaning, the 1,300?
No, sir.
We have power janitor?
No, sir, it did not include the cleaning or custodians. And custodians, we have that later on in the presentation, but as a district, you would have to decide how that cleaning worked.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do you have any additional questions? Okay. Joy, thank you. So option 2 looked at adding kindergarten readiness classes in buildings that already had classroom space available. So in speaking with building principals, talking with Jennifer, we learned that there are rooms available in Bellsville, Powhatan Elementary School, and that a room could be made available at Woodsfield. So this option focuses on opening those 3 kindergarten readiness classrooms. Now, if we only open 3, we do have a busing scenario. So if we opened a kindergarten readiness classroom at Powhatan, River kindergarten ready students could possibly be bused to Powhatan to attend that 4-day-a-week program. There would still be a class at River, but it would be for the younger kiddos. The same scenario would happen between Skyview and Woodsfield. You know, the Skyview kindergarten ready students could be bused to Woodsfield to attend that 4-day-a-week program. For kindergarten, those students would go back to their home school. So when we looked at funding for that, you know, funding 8 teachers total instead of 10, the cost reduced to $644,000. And the cost for 8 paraprofessionals instead of 10 dropped to $250,000 or approximately. So overall, that only showed an increase of about $294,000 for opening the 3 rooms. You know, we know that we looked at a couple places and we gave 2 different options. Do you have questions about this option over the other one?
I have a question, but it's not necessarily the difference in the options.
Okay.
Are there students that are in our preschool right now that won't be moving to kindergarten that would be part of these classes next year?
Yes.
So do you have a total class size?
So the we have a ratio we maintain by the Ohio Department of Education that is based on the age of students. So what we do is when we develop a class list, we look at the age of the students, and that kind of guides us in how many students we can put in each classroom.
Okay, so you're not sure right now how many teachers and paraprofessionals you would need?
We have approximately, last time I looked, I believe it was 29 students we have this year that are currently enrolled that are eligible and are planning on returning for next school year already. And that's without the new applications we've sent out and we've been receiving back.
Do you have that breakdown as to which schools they're at?
I don't right now, but I can get it.
Okay.
Are you talking about the 29 returning, Mrs. Smith?
I actually have that in a Google Drive, in my drive.
You want
Okay.
that broken down by where they're returning at?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on either one of these options? Okay, so we tried to do our best to put together a comparison for you of the different aspects of what would be included in the cost, even though there are still outliers, of course. So this is an approximate pricing. When you look at this comparison chart, you'll see the item on the left, and I noted whether it was an annual cost or a one-time cost for that item. When you look at the 2 columns on the right, you're going to see the 3 classrooms additions and then the proposal for the 5 classroom additions. So as we go down through, you can see the top line is staffing cost, which would be an annual cost, and that's what Ann already presented to you, the $294 and the $490. The next 2 are one-time approximate cost of furniture, and you can see $24,000 versus $40,000. Supplies for the classroom, another one-time cost, $21,000 versus $35,000. The site rental, which would be an annual cost, you can see for the 3 classrooms added, it would be 0 because we do have space already available.
Joy,
For the sure.
Joy, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. Can you minimize the screen with the pictures so that we can see the right-hand column?
I am sorry about that. Yes, I can. How's that?
Yeah. We have to do it on our end, I think. Is it on our end?
Are you able to see it now? You should just see a square on my screen.
No, we can't see that, Joy. I see the full slide.
Yeah, we still see the boardroom view. Oh, maybe it's on here. Oh, there. All right, Connie's got it figured out.
Okay. Are you better? Can you see everything now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll start again just briefly. The left side is what the item is for the preschool classroom. Your 2 columns, the first column is the 3 additional classrooms, the amount that would be approximately. The last column is the approximate amount for 5 additional classrooms. I also listed if it was an annual cost or a one-time cost. So you can start with the staffing. You can see the 294 versus the 490 that Ann already went through. The furniture and the supplies are a one-time cost, and it goes from 24,000 with the proposed addition of 3 classrooms to approximately 40,000 if we went with 5 classrooms. The supplies go from 21,000 to 35,000. That is a one-time cost also. The site rental would, of course, be an annual cost until we were able to find room back in your buildings. And so for the 3 additional classrooms, it would be a 0 site rental cost because we have those available already. For the 5 classrooms, it would be approximately $20,700. But with that news late this afternoon from Louisville, we would increase that by $1,000. And then the one-time site cost for licensing updates would be the Louisville Center has several things within the building and the playground that would need to be made up to grade for licensing, such as the door to the classroom is very old. The lock does not work. We would have to replace a few things. That was all listed within your detailed plan that was sent to you. That's where that $3,900 comes in, and that $3,900 would be a one-time cost. The next column says the tuition cost if the district picked up the cost of tuition. So you can see I listed that at an annual cost if the district would choose to go that route of offering it free to their students. And I showed the calculation there. So for an additional 3 classes, it would be $161,000 approximately. For 5 additional classes, it would be about $200,000 for the district to pick up tuition. Then I listed the current cost of staffing and the total increase of classrooms additions, what that would look like, and then the total approximate cost of preschool for 1 year next year. So 1.1 million versus the almost 4 million. Then at the bottom, you have the overall approximate annual increase. So what would it increase per year based on what you pay now? And again, this annual increase does include the district picking up tuition. And so for 3 additional classes, it would be about $455,000. For 5 additional classes, it would be about $712,000. On the $712,000, again, if Louisville stayed with the $2,000 a month rental, that would have to go up about $9,000 based on the information I received today. The other thing to consider here with the overall approximate annual increase would be if you decided, no, we're going to continue to charge tuition to our students, then you would simply take out that tuition cost line and both costs annually would go down. So this is a lot in this slide. Process that for a minute. What do you have questions? Do you have comments? Anything we can help clarify?
Did you look at the cost of transportation and the time lost with the students compared to the site rental cost?
So
Okay.
I know
Go ahead,
when
Ann.
I spoke with staff from the Louisville Community Center. That is actually a bus stop. They do a bus transfer already there. So that actually is not adding anything as far as an additional stop for the district route. Is that what you were meaning?
Well, there might be a bus stop there, but that doesn't mean all the students that attend that area come through that bus stop.
Right, because I know Skyview does a big transfer in the morning and then again at the end of the day with students. So that, we may have some students that do have to do this transfer at Skyview and different things. So that's something to consider, yeah.
And I know that Mrs. Bohatch, you had spoken directly to Mr. Clutter. Do you want to add anything to that piece of it about transportation?
Yeah, so in the three classroom model, we may have additional transportation costs if we're taking them up the river or Louisville, that area. In the 5 model, it's going to be, he says you just buzz right around those buildings and drop off, and it's not going to increase a lot of anything. It may take an extra 5 minutes on the route just to swing by, drop them off, pick them up. One thing I wanted to clarify too, Joy, on the tuition cost, that's assuming everybody pays the full amount. But if there is grant monies that offset that cost, then that would be less that the district would pay for tuition. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. And so any ECE funds that come in, which you currently have 2 ECE grants we work off of, could be deducted from that if we had all those spots filled.
So going back with what we have now, we had 50% of our students currently in preschool that are paying full price. And the other, there was, if I remember, 45% were no cost and 5% were at a reduced cost.
Correct. That was on last presentation. Yes, Jennifer.
So that would be the tuition cost would
Correct.
be.
And that can fluctuate per year based upon students' home income. So we took it as 16 students per class. You could also have a class that has 18 or 20 students. So we tried to give a good overview of what that full tuition cost could be.
If you like, I can help you with the transportation piece of it.
That would be great. Yeah.
If you do the 3 sites, you would have no additional cost to transportation because we currently have buses coming back that direction anyways. So those buses are already making that run. They would, instead of making that run empty, they would just go with students. So you wouldn't have any additional cost there.
Correct. What about with the 5 sites, Mr. Clutter? I know you and Jennifer had talked a while back about this and you felt like it was doable.
The 5 sites are doable. There may be a little additional there possibly. It would be very minimal. But with the 3 sites, there would be a 0, but it would be very minimal with the 5 because we would have to transport, like if you'd done the Louisville site, and the, oh shoot, what was the other? The one at Hannibal, yes. See, there might be, we currently have buses that are going that direction. So you would have a minimal cost there. It would be very minute probably.
Right. And I know you had mentioned snow removal and we had talked to both sites about that.
Yeah, that would be up to them. I mean, unless the district would contract the current people that we have to go and do that, then that would be an additional cost there. But if the centers are willing to do that in their cost, then that's great. That's another thing off our plate.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many kids right now that we got now is using the transportation? Do you know?
I can come up with a list, but we actually do have quite a few that ride the buses to and from school.
Right.
Well, I think you're right there. You talked about a lot of parents take their kids to school. I know at Woodfield Elementary, there's a line around the building.
Same Lake River.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think, I agree with Jason, that the transportation would be the issue. My question would be just the justification of 3 to 5 sites, and that's depending on how many students you have, right?
Well, and that's
Enrollment.
something.
So you can't predict, how do you pick one or the other until you know your enrollment figures?
Well, that's something that Joy and I had talked about, and she hadn't gotten to that point yet. We agreed that if it was under 5 students in the classroom, it wouldn't warrant leasing sites and going that extra. We could absorb some of that within the building, but it wouldn't warrant us leasing all this extra property and displacing.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Does inter-enrollment an effect for this? Because let's say you get a particular teacher, and it's already happening in a district, and you got all these kids that want to go to, say, the Louisville Center as opposed to Woods Elementary. How do how are you going to deal with that? And then all of a sudden you have, that many people there, and you maybe only got 5 at Woodsfield. So do you say Woodsfield's the primary? I'm just saying, for instance, for the 3, if there's an overload in this particular attendance area, then we'll go to the Louisville Center or the Isley Center in Hannibal as a safety net sort of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and maybe you can address some of the open enrollment piece of that.
So we've worked really closely with the building principals, and I'm actually working closer with them now. But when we open the new rooms, those are going to be specifically our kindergarten readiness classrooms. So those will be geared towards our older kiddos. So it wouldn't be as much if they want to pick, like you were saying, like some kiddos want a certain teacher or something like that. It would go by age as to what teacher they would have. When students do come through for open enrollment, I've been reaching out to the building principals just because they like to know who's in their building under open enrollment. So they normally give me a yay or nay before I even reach out to central office. But we do have quite a few open enrolled kiddos. We have some from Frontier. Most of them actually are from Frontier. In different things. Some that live down in Newmat, some that live down in Wingate Run area. Did that address your concern?
I mean, obviously the enrollment's gonna dictate the amount of space that's needed. I mean, I think this is an awesome idea because being in education for almost 20 years, I saw so many kids coming in, even though they passed their kindergarten screening, that if they had a pre-K system that was in line with what we're doing already, and they come in, in the kindergarten, knowing already what kindergartners are learning, that's always exponentially going to be better by the time they hit second, third, fourth, fifth grade.
Absolutely.
You are exactly right. Yes, it is the preventative model. We are building that foundation so that later on your success numbers can be higher and your special education numbers can be lower. Definitely. Okay.
That retention piece.
Well, theoretically, it could do away with retentions, and I know I've worked in special ed for a number of years, that some kids sort of get identified because they're behind, not necessarily because they're special ed, but once they're at that level, it's too hard to catch them up. So maybe if they come in more prepared, we might see things change in that direction.
Exactly.
I completely agree.
I know this is a very minor cost, but you mentioned rent for 9 months. If we have all this equipment we're buying and furniture, what are we going to do with that furniture? Are we going to need to rent it for 12 months?
Well, so the furniture would be purchased by the district. It would be ours and yours. And I have asked both sites specifically over the summer, could we just lock the room up and keep it there? And both sites, Hannibal and Louisville, said yes. So it would be owned by the school district or us, depending on what it is. But it could be locked in the room and stay there over the summer. That's a great question. Yeah. Both centers had no problem with that. Okay, any other thoughts or questions we can answer on this price comparison? Okay. So a couple other additional considerations, which we've already touched base on, is I know Jennifer spoke directly with Mr. Clutter and food service, and they agreed that both of these options would be absolutely possible within their departments, because if we chose to have rental sites at Louisville and Hannibal, there would have to be lunch provided also and breakfast. And so we've talked about several different scenarios of how that could work with who could get it there, and how that would work eating on site. And both locations have places, whether we eat in the classroom or outside of the classroom, that students can eat in a healthy, safe environment. The other thing to think about would be the custodian piece. At this point, Hannibal does not have anybody on site, the Hannibal Center, that could provide those cleaning services. Louisville does, and they would be willing to put that within the monthly rental. But I also understand, custodians already within the department. And I just put a couple prices here. I did talk with Jennifer about what the price range is for a custodian. And if the district would choose that a custodian needed to be used outside of their already typical hours, that could be a price increase. I didn't put it in the overall because that's something we would have to consider as a team, whether those would be within their normally worked hours or outside of their hours, or if you would go with a cleaning service outside of the district. So that's just a couple extra things to think about as we're thinking about this project. Any thoughts or feedback on those areas? We've already kind of touched base on transportation and food service.
Joy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my unmute off when you were asking
That's okay.
on the slide. Would you be able to send the scale for the teachers that you're looking at?
Would I be able to send what, Sarah? Say it one more time for me.
The pay scale for the teachers and paraprofessionals.
Absolutely. I had emailed that to you before, but I can email it again. Do you need that certified?
No, let me look at it. Let me look, see if I have it. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I can send it again. Absolutely. I had sent the classified and the certified scales, I believe, to the entire board. But we can share that again. I know how emails get lost, trust me.
And is it
Okay.
okay just to email the breakdown of students returning to preschool next year? Is that okay with you guys if I just email it to the board? Because they had asked for the breakdown of students we have that are returning that are eligible for preschool next year. So is that something I could just email out?
Yeah, we can include it all in one email if you'd like, Anne. We'll send it out tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Anne's going to talk a little bit about how we're joining forces with the elementary schools to register students.
So I've been talking with different building principals, and Joy and Jennifer have been talking, and we kind of talked about, sometimes when parents send their kiddos and come in for kindergarten screening, sometimes we have booths set up to talk about preschool, but we thought it'd be a great idea to have a preschool registration. So we're going to work collaboratively with each elementary school, and while they're having their kindergarten screening and registration, we're going to have a preschool registration. We're going to have staff members on site both days, March 30th and March 31st. And overall, we just have a couple goals. We want to be able to help register as many students as possible for preschool during those days. It's nice that if a family has a question, that we can have someone there available to address their questions at that point in time so they can get answers sooner. And it'll also help because then we can make copies of all the required documents they need. To enroll for preschool, you have to have the same documents as you do to enroll in school age. We have to have the birth certificate, the proof of residency, and immunization, and it'll just make that process smoother for families. Something else we were going to do is after we have the preschool registration at the end of March, we are going to be sending home an enrollment document containing a QR code that a parent could scan it and it would take you straight to our application. Those are going to go home with every student, preschool, kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. And there will also be contact information on there. So if a parent needs a paper copy of the application, they can call our office, reach the appropriate person, and one can be mailed out to them. And as Joy mentioned the last one earlier, that the minimum enrollment number for a classroom would be 5 students. Do you have any questions about that slide?
Hey, Ann, this is Larry.
Larry?
On that last thing you said, the minimum enrollment number for the classroom would be 5 students. Do we have 5 right now that are going to be in that classroom that's going to be transitioning? Do we know that for sure, that we have 5?
Transitioning into the kindergarten readiness class?
Yes.
I have approximately 29 that are coming back to preschool next year. I'm going to do that breakdown, but we do have, we would have more than 5, I believe, for each area. I have it in my drive, but if I pull my drive up, I can't see the PowerPoint anymore. So, but I will pull that tonight.
So that means then the other class for the 3-4-year-olds, that's the one we have to be concerned about for the 5 students?
Yes, that would be my thought, Larry. Yes, I think you're going to probably see those numbers start out lower. And then as Anne gains suspected disability meetings and EI kiddos, then your numbers may increase in those 3- and 4-year-old classes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
What's the most you have in a classroom?
I'm sorry, was there another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Wanted to know the maximum number per classroom.
Before we'd have to have another classroom.
Well, what we need to do is we actually have to look at 2 things. We do have a ratio that the Ohio Department of Ed mandates, but we also have to have this, figure out the square footage of the room, because each student has to have a required amount of square footage, and that is the final determination of how many students we can place in each classroom.
You're saying that the amount of space in the new rooms, Anne, correct?
Yes, like our existing rooms, we know, but the new rooms, I can't tell you exactly how many students we could put in there until we do the exact measurements.
Thank you.
I would say that just best practice for preschool, sometimes if your room is large enough, you can go up to as many as 24 in a general education classroom. I don't know that I would recommend putting 24 in a classroom. We don't have any classroom anywhere that we put 24 students in. I would say your average should be between 16 and 18 to be considered full. If you noticed in the price comparison, I used 16 students as a full classroom. Again, if we're 1 or 2 students above, we would make sure that student fit. But if we got applications for 30 students, we would either have to start a wait list or figure out a different configuration.
I think you'd be looking for teachers too, that's the first month.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, I feel we looked at the Hannibal room together, and I do feel 16 would fit Hannibal.
Yes. And I believe in Louisville also. Yeah.
Okay. So something else we were going to look at is, this is the one we just did, right?
Yep. Are you ready for the next one, Ann?
Was there any other questions really quick? I forgot to ask that. They're great questions. Okay, I think we can move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk some tuition. Yeah.
We had kind of talked tuition some. So, you know, we do have tuition, as we talked at the last month's meeting, that tuition is taken off your bill at the end of the school year. So we have 3 different scenarios for your tuition options. The first one is all students pay to attend. Now, our IEP students attend free of charge automatically. Students that qualify for reduced or free tuition obviously would not pay full tuition. So the current tuition is $140 a month, whether a child attends 2 days a week or 4 days a week. You know, if you look at the asterisk, it also does talk about you could reduce the overall amount of tuition that everyone pays, or reduce that charge for your 2-day program to $70 a month. Do you have any questions about that option before I move on? Okay. The second option is you take the students that are going to attend that K readiness class. So those are all of your older students, have them attend free. Your younger students can still pay tuition, but your older ones would not. So we could try to get as many students in as possible in different things. So that is an option also. And the third option is that you could waive tuition altogether and all students can attend preschool for free in the district. Those are options we did talk about last month. After hearing them, did you have any questions after we discussed them last month?
You mentioned 3 options.
Yes.
I think I missed one of them. One was free for everyone.
Okay.
One was you could be free for K-Ready and pay like traditionally for the younger ones.
Right.
And then the other one would be you could just pay traditionally for both groups.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first option, the last one you mentioned, is what we currently do.
Okay.
In different things. So option 2 and option 3 are the new options we presented.
And you could also adapt our current option to reduce that 2-day-a-week program to $70 if you felt like you wanted to offer a little bit of difference with that. So there's actually 4 options. Does anybody have any thoughts or discussion on that, on tuition? Because that really is your decision as a district, how you handle that.
Currently, it's based on income, right? What they pay and whether they have an IEP or not.
Exactly. Yep.
Did you run the numbers, Connie, yet?
They're in front of you.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, that's in the stack that I gave you.
well, if we go free, you got the numbers for free?
Whatever they gave me on the sheet is what I had in there.
Okay, I think,
And so option 1 is the 3 added, and option 2 was the 5.
Which stack is that in? I'll just put it here.
Yeah.
I found it.
And they both include no cost of tuition to the students. Yeah, and it's 100% district paid tuition. That's what I ran. Those are the numbers that I ran.
Jennifer, would it help if I go back to the cost comparison chart?
They've got, Connie ran papers for them here.
Okay.
So I can look at that.
Are we talking about these 5-year forecasts?
What?
Because I reduced my screen, I can't see anyone, so I'm just double checking.
Yeah, you can go back to that preschool option 1, option 2.
Must not be this one.
Yeah, that's it, right here. Space.
Oh,
Then this is option 1,
okay,
that's option 2.
thank you.
At the top,
Yeah.
option
Oh,
1,
okay.
that's the 3-room. And option 2 is the 5. Very good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, I did take it back to the cost comparison screen, and please let us know if you have questions. Again, I know it's a lot of information.
So what was modeled is the last, if you look at the last one up there, it's the 495 and the 712.
What did you provide?
She has it in her email.
With the 5-year forecast, do you recommend the free or not?
Well, it's about $1 million difference in year 2025.
Yeah.
I mean, the cash balance difference. It costs more than that, but the cash balance difference between the two programs.
So, I mean, you're only looking at 100 to 200,000 for tuition costs. Your staffing cost obviously is more than that. So if your return on investment, it's gonna be that you're gonna get more students later on. And if that brings in more students, then why would you not? I mean, I think that's a good investment. I mean, personally.
Are you saying you believe the tuition is a good investment?
The free.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, you work with the students that are coming in. How do you feel, I mean, what's your suggestion on tuition based on what you are already dealing with and know the history of some of the families?
Correct. I mean, obviously, I think at a no-cost option, you are going to get more families. In your survey, you got 6 that really stuck with the, we're not sure if we would enroll, even if it was free. However, I just want to remind you that tuition cost in this price comparison, we rate high because we did not include your ECD grants because that fluctuates per year. I also know, just dealing with all of our districts, we get the most phone calls about tuition from Switzerland. Just asking questions, with COVID and different things, asking if we can reduce it for the month, asking questions about what it may be next year. I think if the overall goal is to attract the most students every year that we can get into our classrooms, then yes, the no tuition is the best option. However, if that's not possible, my next best suggestion would be providing it free to your K-ready kiddos, because those are the ones you really want in for at least that 1 year before kindergarten, and then still charging something for your younger students. Does that help a little bit, Connie?
Jared, does that?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Because you said right now we have 45% is no cost of our current students, correct?
Correct. That
So-
includes your IEP. So, your IEPs fluctuate per year and your students who qualify based on the sliding scale.
I do have another question. What do your other districts do that are participating in this program? Do they offer free tuition or do they charge reduced rate, or how do they work?
Yeah, no, currently all of our other districts at this point use option 1. So let me go back to that one. Let's see here we go. Okay, so when you look at option 1, that is currently what all of our other districts are using. So all students right now pay to attend, unless they have the IEP or qualify. And all programs, 2 days or 4 days, are $140 a month currently in all of our other districts.
Thank you.
Sure.
Could you use option 1 and 2 both, like your free K radius students are free, the other ones you charge?
Right.
Can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, she said in the first year, you could do, in the younger kids, you could charge, and then the second year, KRAs, you could do the free tuition. District's paying.
I
think we're gonna get more K-ready students.
I think that's a better option for us.
Option 2.
Option 2.
It's more conservative, start out. I mean, you can always test it for 1 year and see how it goes.
Correct. And I think you're saying to your families then, we really want your kids in our classrooms. You know, I think you would get more K readiness students to build that program initially if you were able to offer option 2.
Yep, polls showed option 3 would be the most participation. You get the most participation in option 3. That's what your poll's showing, right? 93%.
Yes. Yes.
Joy, I have a question too.
Sure.
You mentioned kids in there with IEP. Where are the services for them? Like if you have occupational therapy or speech, where are those costs at?
Where are the
Where are
services
those costs?
provided
Go
at?
ahead, Ann.
Okay, so any students that are enrolled in our classroom, in our classes in the elementary schools, we provide those services there. If there is a student that is enrolled at an outside center, be it a Head Start center or a private preschool, we do provide services to those students if they qualify, and that's where they attend, because we have to consider their least restrictive environment, and that's where they're currently attending. But we do provide services in our own rooms also.
Where is the cost for those services shown at?
Oh, I see what you're saying,
Oh,
Sarah.
nice.
Yeah, those costs are not shown yet because we don't know if they'll increase or not, because you do get special ed funding for those students that are enrolled in your district preschool special ed funding.
Yes.
So with the additional 3 classrooms, they're within the building already where our service providers are. And with the outside too, we just have to look at how many IEPs were registered there as to whether we needed somebody on site or how we would provide those services outside if you went to Hannibal Center or Louisville. But if you stayed with the options within the building, our service providers are already there.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Sarah?
I think it does. Do we pull down funding for the kids without IEPs in preschool?
Only if they qualify for the early childhood education grant.
Okay.
And so you have an early childhood education grant that Curtis operates on site for 3 of your elementaries, and then we operate one that you're allowed to have spots at Bellsville. So it's a sliding fee, it's a sliding scale there, and it's also how old they are. You have to be within a certain age bracket to qualify for that grant. Like currently at Bellsville, you have 13 slots, and all of those are filled with kiddos in Carla's class. And so you pull down approximately $4,000 for each one of those students that can be applied to different ways, teacher salaries, things like that.
In the grant that Curtis oversees for the district, I work with him closely with that. You have 24 spots at Powhatan, Woodsfield, and Skyview, and you have 23 of those 24 spots currently filled.
Thank you.
Sure. And we do our best to keep those slots filled to the highest capacity. Sometimes you'll have 1 or 2 not filled, but we try to fill those as we can to 100%, so you get that money back to your district. Okay,
So
what other? Go ahead.
Sorry, another question. On option 2, the younger kids would pay $140 a month. Does that also go by income also, or is that a straight $140 for every?
No, it would go by income also.
Okay, so Connie's saying we can afford this, so I think we need to go with option 3 to jumpstart the program. And then if we see we can't afford it after the first year, then we could always change back to option 2 or 1.
I mean,
But I think we need to hit it hard to try to get all the kids we can in it.
your biggest expense is staffing. That's your biggest expense. And then your one-time furniture and supplies, and then I don't know about special ed, if they would have to have more staffing. That's your biggest expense.
You said we can afford it now.
It's on you can look on the forecast.
Yeah, I think we can, and if it don't work out, we can always change it to next year, but I think we need to get all the kids possible enrolled we can. And option 3 it shows the poll says that'll do it.
Another thought to go along with what you're saying is if people aren't completely comfortable with offering it completely free yet, if you look at option 2, where we have $140 a month for students attending 2 days, you could also reduce that cost. So you could say, you know, your kindergarten readiness is free to attend, and then we're going to reduce our 2-day-a-week program to $70 a month as an incentive to our families. That might provide you a happy medium if there are those who aren't comfortable going completely free.
Because the lower income is still gonna get free.
They will, and even if you went down to $70, there's still the sliding scale. So if I'm a parent who meets the middle of the sliding scale, I could still only pay $40 or $20. So absolutely, yeah. So just a thought.
Does the tuition piece of this need to be decided tonight? I just feel like we have a couple other big pieces of finances that, you know, are coming up.
It does not have to be. No, ma'am.
Those are new that we would be voting on tonight. Approval,
So,
discussion,
if they vote on it under the new business, this is the whole package deal, correct? Expanding tuition, well, it depends on how they word the motion, right? Because they have a couple options out there. So that would be up to them if you could do it separately, if that's what you wish to do.
Yeah, that piece is up to you. My biggest recommendation for tonight would be if we could know if you're choosing to move forward on expansion 3 classes or 5 classes, because when we have preschool registration on March 30th and 31st, we're going to need to know how to explain that to parents. The tuition is something that would be very nice to have, but if people are uncomfortable or need more discussion, that could take more time. But with the expansion, it would be awesome to know tonight if you're choosing to do that and how many classes, so that we can start that process with families and reaching out to, here's what we have to offer next year.
I think you're getting more students committing, more parents committing if they know.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know.
faster we can get a decision made better.
Right, start to make that decision on their part.
Mhm.
And I think we've already hit this, but just to throw it in there one more time, what increased enrollment leads to? Kindergarten readiness. You know, I heard someone mention earlier, you know, if we could just get kids ready to do school in kindergarten, you're hopefully going to avoid a lot of special education issues and intervention time that may be hours worth of time down the road where we were able to intervene and increase. It also leads to expanded opportunities to bring your families on board and keep them in your district. And then we hope to have increased collaboration with your kindergarten team and your early childhood teams on campuses, which we've already started with our coach. But just a thought on that, and early childhood education is the key to the betterment of society. What questions do you have in closing? I know that you all have a lot on your agenda, and we are here as long as you need us. What else can we help answer for you?
We're gonna have a special meeting, can we discuss this?
Whenever we vote on it, before we vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here tonight to digest.
It's on, and then.
I agree, Ronnie.
So you just table it?
Or postpone it.
Postpone it.
You're planning on having one next week?
Yeah,
What you choose.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, I got a lot of questions, and I don't wanna stay all night here asking questions on.
We can move
I
on from
understand.
it.
Well, we
Okay.
appreciate you asking the questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Is that all right? We just move on because,
Yeah, we're still in the superintendent's report, so.
yeah.
It's over.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Thank all of you.
It is and it isn't now.
Yeah.
Now we're down to consent agenda. I need a motion to
Okay.
accept.
Make a motion, we accept 1 through 11.
Would you guys refresh, please, because I added a new business item, Ronnie, that you wanted added, and I also deleted the executive session,
Okay.
so then you guys will see it.
Slow.
Oh,
Okay.
Mhm.
Everything's open.
For some reason mine ain't going. I refreshed, but it,
yeah, I've got,
Didn't work?
I got nothing yet.
Let me close it and reopen, hold on. Okay, I reopened it,
I refreshed and joined the meeting, but
see if that helps. Did you guys get a box yet? Okay, so. Again? Did it work that time?
more docs.
you want us to reset again or
Okay, so
refresh?
hold on just a minute. Let me, what did I do? I don't know what happened.
I went blank.
Hey, Joy,
Yes, I'm working on sending it back to you. I'm up by my name. What do I need to hit exactly?
you should be able to, click on Tess Hill.
Box just completed.
Okay.
Now there's 2 of me, I believe.
Okay, I see one. I'm gonna make the first one host.
Yeah,
And see-
just try that. Okay.
Okay. Did that work
Yep.
for you?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get that internet access. Mine is completely quit.
Thank you all for your time very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It come up now, my server stopped responding, it says.
Mine's not even looking for it.
This page can't be displayed.
Yeah, that's great. No internet.
I'm on that COIT and mine says weak, but mine came up.
You must be on the windmills.
Mine says no.
I think
No
so.
internet, secure.
I'm pedaling.
So, Corey?
So it's in jeopardy now. Katie Kirk,
Yeah.
it's not the same.
I can't get on.
Sorry. He just had something about him.
It's so
Yeah.
hard after you've had someone like
For
that.
how many years? How many years has it been?
I have no
I mean,
idea.
she does a good job, but it's just not.
Yeah, it's not.
Did you not pay your internet bill?
Crashed it. Told him to shut it off at 8:00 today.
Hey, what's that pen stuck in the middle of your keyboard for?
So what?
That pen.
Oh, yeah. I told him to shut off the internet at 8. I don't know. None of us, our internet's not.
I have it.
Does everybody else have an issue?
Ronnie, I think,
Yeah,
doesn't
see.
have it.
Yeah, it just,
COIT.
That's what I'm on, COIT.
see how I went, it just
I
went.
don't, it just automatically.
Where's your connection at?
This is the one I was trying to. Yes, go right
I
ahead.
don't know where it's
Come
at.
on over here next.
You mean
Your
like-
connection.
I don't have a box for voting.
Always PCS.
Woo. Got it.
You want that?
I'm on that COIT. It says weak, but I never got the vote box.
Thank you.
We're good over here. There they are, okay.
Just until you go back to your office.
How are you doing?
It's a week, but I'm been functioning.
So why can I not see my-
No, I'm not doing too good here.
They just went.
Nice.
Oh, geez, my fingers.
So I can't get into my agenda for some reason.
Hit my wood dog.
I think I gotta get you connected. It says you have.
Are you in the board office?
No, mine went out with that phone.
If you fixed yours.
You know how we always do consent agenda items, one through whatever it is? She didn't add that item on here.
Right, it's just one.
So I need to add it, but I can't. Oh, I think I got it now. I found it. I'm gonna add another item. You have to refresh again.
I'll just sit and talk to you about something on stuff.
Alright.
I need to water.
There it goes.
What is it, 11?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
You're gonna have to refresh here in a minute. She's adding an
Yeah,
item.
I'm adding a line.
Very good.
So far.
Don't go too far.
Yeah, we're getting ready to refresh.
But now they're trying to charge on it, so then, and then that's my whole check. I never had a problem with that happening.
Somebody bring it in, though.
I will, I'll be in to see.
Well, mine's already got everything on there.
No, this here, you know how there's, oh,
Yeah,
what
but
did I
look here.
do? Mine disappeared.
Okay, Connie, you
See,
Okay.
it's on there.
Refresh.
No, up the top of the
That's what
consent.
got us in trouble before.
Oh.
Well, try it again.
It should say item. That's
Hold
her
your
new
breath and
agenda
try it.
item.
Click. I added, under consent agenda, there was no first line that says, approval of consent agenda items through to where it approves everything, so I added that. Now it's one motion for all of them. Okay, and our first, we go back to our first was Bev, right?
No, it was Jerry and Greg.
Jerry and Greg, okay.
I got
Okay,
you.
let's try this. Voting is now open, I hope.
Yeah.
Good.
He has to come up.
Okay.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Motion carried. Now we're down to old business. Item 1, discussion and approval of hiring 2 part-time adult education instructors at Swiss Hills Career Center, 1 for welding and 1 for heavy equipment.
I had the treasurer, she emailed us all the total amount of money we had invested in adult education to now. We're in year 2, and we've had 1 class of 6 students. Now they're saying they want to hire more people.
Is it hired based on if they have a specific amount? It's only,
They don't say.
it does, if there are less than 4 students, the class will not be held. I'm under the understanding that these hires are, no one will be paid unless they hold the class.
Correct.
That is correct. Minimum amount of students.
That's correct.
I got a question. Whoever come up with 4 students breaks even. I mean, I have that in.
I think Mr. Root was on, he could give you the financial.
Yeah, so as we discussed in the meeting, that's based off of $25 an hour that we agreed on, at least for the principal operator, so that's the max.
But after that meeting the other day, I got thinking, I said, 4 students, what's that break even? What's that mean we're breaking even on just the instructors? That doesn't count anything else, or, right?
That's just instructor cost, yes. for what we're currently charging. Again, we're going with a little lower rate to attract students.
But Royce, this is just to get the instructors to see if there's enough interest in the class, right?
Well, yeah, just a commitment from the board to have those classes and then start advertising and getting students.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Remick did say, and I went through the minutes, and he did tell me in that meeting before he purchased that it would be for the students only.
Did we even have adult ed?
That,
Didn't hear Sarah. She said, did we even have adult ed at the time?
we were starting the program, yeah.
I mean, if we need to bring that back up, we can, but
Started the same year, right?
that was just, that was in the meeting, not, in the board.
We started the heavy equipment, it was about 3 years ago, because it was at Monroe Central High School, or Woodfield Elementary. And the adult ed started a year later, because James would have been hired 2 years ago.
He was hired in 2019.
Right.
What do you mean the heavy equipment was at Woodsfield Elementary?
That was the meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm like, okay, I'm lost.
Yeah, when we talked about starting that program.
They're under 18. I don't think they can be on the equipment.
And if we do heavy equipment for adult ed, it will not take anything away from our students, correct?
It'll be more competition for them to get a job.
Gary, what I don't think you understand is,
We're going against our students by giving the adults their competition to us.
is there an age limit
To get a
to
job.
get on the equipment? Yeah, I mean, none? 15, 16, 17 years old, doesn't matter?
Well, it's our juniors and
Juniors,
seniors, whatever age, yeah. You would
But
have
we
their
discussed at that meeting that it's not only for, say, adult displaced workers. We're talking about if there's a kid that took welding or electronics or something and has just recently graduated and wants to go and do one of these adult ed programs, that person's eligible and could take care of the equipment right out of school with these jobs that are potentially coming around. And I think you're kind of gearing like we're taking away from our kids, and I think we're only adding an opportunity for these kids to take that after that.
You're exactly right, but we're responsible for the kids. On PO 123, responsibilities of a board member, it states in there, it never says anything about adults. We're to do as board members what's best for our kids.
And that wouldn't be?
No, why would we responsible for them after they graduate?
I
Why
think
would we be held?
the Swiss Hills teachers, once a kid graduates, reach out to see where they're at in life, to see through their program.
Yes.
Did you know that, Jerry?
No.
Every instructor reaches out to a graduated senior in their program to see where they are in life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a database they're kept track of each
Because-
kid, where they go to.
and that's the way they promote the program.
Well, just like I'm saying, as board members,
I don't know why
after
you're
they
so against,
graduate,
it, Jerry. This is something that could be good for this community.
it's been 2 years now, look at the money we spent, look what the results.
We've had COVID. for
What the
a year.
heck, everybody blames COVID for everything.
Oh,
Come on.
It isn't?
2 years now,
Yeah.
one class, I'm done, let's move on.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we hire the instructors for the adult ed as proposed.
Voting is open.
Now, the motion is, we're just hiring them, but that,
But
we're
if
not,
the kids don't warrant the class, then it
If we,
is
yeah, if
done,
there's
right?
not enough students, you gotta be able to hire someone, we gotta know we have an
He has
instructor
it in
before
here.
we can offer the
If
class.
there's less than 4.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't agree with the 4. But,
I mean, would he lie?
all right.
Yeah, so for the chemical operator class, we have, we had charged $16.50 per student. Okay, so with 200-hour class, that comes out to $5,000 in total instructor time.
So divide that by 4, $12.50.
Yeah, so we're making $400, at least in that class, $400 roughly, as far as profit is concerned.
Well, it really ain't profit when you pay a janitor and all that.
And then you gotta pay the contract
Yeah,
of
that's all right.
the
I voted.
administrator. There's a lot of stuff that involves it.
I already voted, so. I'm just saying,
Yours didn't come up, Ronnie. Neither did Beth.
I just voted.
I did.
No, I don't have your vote yet.
I voted.
How do you want to
Yes.
vote? Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Motion carries. Discussion and approval of moving the telehealth broadband work ahead based on the review committee's recommendation for award.
That's the $500,000 grant money.
You mean move the work up, like the timeline ahead? Or-
Something about moving it ahead.
Sarah, can you repeat your question? You're cutting out a little bit.
What are you meaning by moving the work ahead? Are you like talking about changing the timeline of stuff or just proceeding?
Are you
This is giving the okay to proceed moving forward in the next phase of the telehealth.
Okay, thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting is open.
Get yours before me. I vote yes, Connie.
I don't know what's going on. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried, I'm sorry. Approval of transfers, new revenues, amended certificate, revenue and appropriations, treasury report.
So there are, new revenue items that are listed on my report. These are items that, we received new money for adjustments in the grant funds that are listed. And I just need to do the proper paperwork, on our side and with the county auditor to increase, revenue and the appropriation side. The last line you're gonna see is not the last line, where is it? Second line down, you're gonna see the Easter money that, Mrs. Zohat and Mr. Lazari was talking about earlier. That's the 2.3 million that we're getting, that they're planning on using possibly for the summer program.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried. Under new business, discussion and approval of district purchasing 4 new Thomas C2 66-passenger school buses from Cat to the ETA co-op purchasing program, $360,200.
Is this the, cycle that he had? Money, you know what I'm talking about? Like he buys some money on a rotation.
On the,
On a rotation.
yeah, the cycle that we
Yeah.
normally do.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
She keeps breaking
I'm
in.
sure we need them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
They're also included in forecast every year. I
Yeah.
always carry that out, so that's included.
We good with
These buses are actually cheaper this year than what we've been given the last couple of years. The price actually has went down. I know that's tough to believe right now, but they're actually have went down.
Have you tested them for COVID?
We're hoping they're being built after that fact.
That's why they're cheaper, districts might not be buying them.
Yeah,
It is true that COVID did get the price.
yeah.
Okay, Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gus,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Yeah, then how did you not president vote?
Yeah, I wasn't here. No, I'm kidding.
I
Maybe Corey could come. I don't know.
disregard what you're doing,
It's-
or what popped up, I just accidentally clicked the wrong button.
It says connection to server has been lost.
Okay.
I got another voting box.
Yeah, just
She's voting
disregard.
for me.
I clicked the wrong button. All right, we're done.
It shows I'm on the right item now, so hopefully it'll work next time.
Okay, now, motion carried, I'm sorry. Discussion and approval of Powhatan Elementary 12-month afternoon shift cleaning person changed to 10-month. This has already been discussed, so it don't need no action then.
Was it approved? I don't think it was.
It
Well,
says
if it's already
approval,
discussed, it would be
It
in the,
wasn't in a meeting.
discussion and approval.
Okay,
let me look here.
Needs
need a motion?
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried. Discussion and approval of Monroe Central Football Banquet and other district activities following Governor DeWine's March 2nd, 2012 announcement.
Rob, has anyone else requested a banquet? Is River having a football banquet or any other schools? Kind of
But
banquet?
River has never had any, have they? They haven't requested any.
Monroe Central basketball, did they request it?
No, the only one that's been requested is the one you're looking at
So
right
all they
now.
have to do
Well,
is,
what this is gonna do, this is gonna set the precedent
Yeah, from now
for
on.
when they do come and ask, as
Yeah.
long as they follow the guidelines, the protocols, and keep it in-house.
Just like the handout where it goes.
Yeah, this is for everybody.
Yes.
Just-
Why don't we, yeah,
School?
Why don't we,
Or,
It'll be, no, it'll be elementary,
Okay.
junior highs, if they wanna have banquets.
yeah.
can
I
we
think we
add
need
that? Yeah, I know what you're saying. We ought to add that to it, to this motion. Shouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just approving this, all schools.
right.
this is, and other district activities. I mean,
I mean,
you
just
put
see,
Monroe Central Football because it's already been requested.
Right.
That's specific. No one else has been requested.
How about we put in other district activities at all buildings, all district buildings? Does that work or not?
You've already answered it earlier, though.
Yeah, we've already talked about
Do
it.
they still have to get Rob's approval?
We approved this, well, and we're setting up, we're gonna do it.
But now, if somebody else wants to have a banquet, they don't have to get approval.
No.
It's just.
Right.
Right, because it says, and other district activities.
yeah,
Except for, what'd you say, field trips?
yeah.
Yeah.
No field trips yet.
Should, banquet pretty much means food. Should we change it to, what was the other word we used?
Award ceremony.
Recognition,
Yeah.
because that would cover also your.
I don't see why we just couldn't leave it like it is.
Academic banquet.
And if we're following the guidelines,
Yeah.
they might be able to use some type of prepackaged if they want, you know.
I'd prefer they didn't, because then everyone's gonna have their masks off, and it'd be best without.
And it already says other district activities.
Right.
That's fine. That covers it.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mark, can you see if they can come look at my computer? Can you see if they can come work on my computer?
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Duff?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried.
Now, it says big, but it won't, none of the voting boxes will show up for me. Bonnie, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. We just read. Approval of 5-year license for Claudev for elementary music teachers.
You missed number
That's
4.
Highland.
Oh, okay, I'm up there, yeah. Discussion and approval of a pilot program for robotics level 1 training at Swiss Hills Career Center. I'm sorry.
Now, when Mark, talked to me about this, I thought he meant that the students all would go to schools to get this training. Is that correct?
Hey,
Sarah, you're really cutting in and out. Can you repeat it? Mark, listen.
It's had a little bit of revision to it.
Okay.
Students that are going to get this training, are they going to schools to get the training?
Are they going to Swiss Hills to get the training? Is that what you said?
Yes.
yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Because the attachment sounds like they're at the homeschool, bullet.
Yeah, I scanned in, you should have gotten an email for this copy.
Was it attached to the agenda?
You just sent it tonight, right, Mark?
Yeah, the first bullet says training certificate at the homeschool and Swiss Hills. That just means the students at the homeschools will be offered it, but the training will take it at Swiss Hills.
At Swiss Hills, correct.
I can't understand it.
No, yes, I see what you mean, Ms. Smith, yeah. It's
She's looking at the third bullet she's looking at.
No, the first one.
First bullet, yes, it should read at Swiss Hills.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you'll see there's
The
a few,
very first one.
a couple of different ones. I do have a feel-good story for you before I go over this, and relating to what you're talking about, Greg. I went into a manufacturing company today and walked by, and a young man came up, and the HR person told me, he said, he'll take you on a tour of it. So he took me on a tour of it, and I walked through at least 6 different people I knew. 4 of them were probably between the ages of 20 and 22 years old that graduated from the district. And the odd part about it was there were 3 of them, and this goes back to what you're talking about, who did not go through Swiss Hills. 2 of them had went to college, decided that wasn't for them, and then we're out of college, now what do? Well, the company themselves was training them. They were training them right on site there. So, you know, the possibility, those kids that are 20, 21 years old, one other one was going back to college to be trained, for some of the things there. And the unique thing about it was they had a number of
Thank
CNC
you.
machines sitting there, which we put in out there. It made me feel really good, and good to see those kids. Well, I still call them kids because they were kids when they were in school, but young adults. You know, they were being retrained, they were doing a lot of things, and they were working there, you know, and had good paying jobs. So it was, you know, it's that point where they're out of school, they don't know what they're gonna do, they decide to go to college, and they decide, well, maybe college is not for me. And then they go back into the workforce. So, and they need that training. And that one boy, he had worked his way up from the lowest level there, he was at the top level, and he was as proud as could be. And that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, the FANUC training, it would be a level 1 robotic training. We would like to also, Swiss Hills would like to do a collaboration with Noble Local. This would be a senior-only program. Students will be selected to homeschool based on interest. The principals, guidance counselors will have a say in that and everything. They know their students the best. 2 students from each school. It would also benefit 9 students at Swiss Hills right now, and those 9 students are also taking a NIM certification right along with that at the same time, which is very, very important. And Mr. Rubel can kind of expound upon that a little bit. Transportation will be provided if they do not have a means there. We'll provide a van. I talked to Mr. Clutter about it, and he gave me cost on that. Also, we will send 2 of our current instructors from Swiss Hills to Rochester, Michigan. They will be trained there over a 4-day period. They'll be able to be used for both robotics for our students and adult training if we ever need it in the future, if we have it. Our instructors, this is a key point, if our instructors are not able to become certified, okay, we will not have the class this year. Okay, because we looked at outside sources and everything, and we took that away, and I'll let Mr. Rubel talk a little bit about that. Mr. Rubel?
Yes, so we use some contacts through Ohio State and the National Lab over there in Pittsburgh, the Army National Lab. And getting a consultant in this quickly is not an option for a competitive price. So we decided that we would just postpone it to the fall if we had to do that.
And the back sheet has the cost estimate on it. One of the trainings we currently have, because we bought FANUC equipment, we're guaranteed one of the trainings, okay, which is $32.50. So that's already paid for with the equipment that we bought. So the second one for the second instructor will be $32.50, and then the allowance for mileage, hotel, and everything else for the professional development.
Will Dr. Unger be part of the selection process as well? He's technically not a principal.
Will Dr. Unger be in the selection process?
Yes, well, the 9 students at Swiss Hills are currently in that program, okay, that are also taking the NIM certification. They're already there, so the home schools will be in the selection process with their students.
Will this start this year, or would it start next year?
Pardon?
Next year or this year?
This year we're gonna.
This year, yeah, this year, if our instructors become certified, then we'll use them, and we'll do it this year, 2 weeks in April and a week in May. It would run from 12:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon, and we would leave lunchtime. And we've talked with the principals and everything, and they said, you know, they could work things out logistically for those kids, and those kids would be responsible for taking care of their lessons in the afternoon, any classes that they would miss.
Is there a motion on that?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the pilot program for robotics 1.
Second.
Voting is open. Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Now we're down to number 5, approval of 5-year license for elementary music teachers.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Discussion?
Don't say
Sarah-
discussion, it says approve.
No, I know. I said Sarah must want to say something.
Yeah, I was seconding the motion.
Oh, she seconded it. Okay.
Okay,
She
so,
Thank you, Ron.
made it and Sarah seconded it.
okay.
I thought she had discussion on something.
No
You
discussion
don't
allowed
say you
for
can discuss
Jerry.
it, Mr. President, it's
No discussion.
approval.
They're yours.
Make sure we revise that from now on.
I thought she wanted to ask a question.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Discussion and approval of preschool expansion through Bright Beginnings OVESC Center.
I make a motion, we approve and use item, Article 3. Use the plan, the 3.
Option 3 for
Option
tuition.
3, sorry about that,
Right,
you're right.
option 3 for
Wasn't that,
tuition.
did you say?
I thought we,
I did too.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr.
Well, I made a motion.
Guy, if somebody else second.
I made a motion, if nobody
Well,
seconded
you
it,
wanted to discuss it, as we talked about that, right?
yeah.
exactly. So I made a motion, and you can either get a second or not. I'm ready to move on it. Option 3,
Option 3 for tuition.
yes.
What did I put?
Since there's no second, the motion fails. Now, can we do I need to put a motion on there to postpone it till a special meeting?
Will automatically.
Yeah, automatically goes to
I
it.
think we'll automatically bring it back as old business.
Okay.
I think that's how it works.
It would have to be brought up again on the notice.
Right.
But
Yeah.
will automatically be under old business, because it was already discussed once.
You're talking about.
A special notice,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
long
since
as
it
is
died in a
tabled.
second, yeah. Since it died, yeah. And we didn't agree to. Okay, now we're down to 7. First reading of all the policies here. I'm not gonna read them all.
I have a question. I can't remember if it's 7450 or 7455. It's on the inventory. It says that the treasurer and superintendent will take care of the inventory, but there's also a option for the business manager to take care of that. I'm just wondering if you had a reason not to have her do it. Or-
I can't understand what.
We can't understand you, Sarah.
Can I call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna call? You wanna call me?
Call Jerry. Call Jerry, nobody else will. Call Jerry, nobody else will.
You walked into that one, Bev.
Wouldn't answer.
Huh?
You wouldn't answer.
No, I won't.
Is she gonna call me?
Unless you want to leave.
There you go.
Okay, hello?
Okay, so my question is, in one of those, I thought it was muted. In either the 74.
Oh, do we need to mute this?
It talked about inventory,
See if that helps.
and I was wondering if there was a reason that you didn't have the business manager take care of it, because it says it's the treasurer and the superintendent that's taking care of inventory.
If it's pertaining to inventory as far as in the system, that would be Rob and I.
If there's an option on there for the business manager. you had a preference or a reason.
Which policy is she talking about?
74,
She said 7450 or 7455. It's about inventory.
One of them,
okay, I don't have them with me. Let me look at it real quick. I don't know if I can pull it up yet.
Yeah, you should be able to just go to policy.
Was it 7450? But it's under draft, right?
Right. And then it should be ready for board, well, maybe it's, I guess it's under Edgar revisions. Yeah, they're both under Edgar.
yeah.
Property inventory 7450.
Okay, so, are you talking about like midway down where superintendent, business manager's crossed out and then the treasurer is marked?
I thought the treasurer and superintendent was marked.
They both are. Is that the section you're speaking about?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying you want business manager checked?
Say that again.
Are you
Oh, I muted
needing
this.
business
I
manager
bet you people out there can't hear us.
To be counted. Total value is less than 5,000. It shall be the duty of the superintendent treasurer. So this is speaking to recorded.
And then when I
So,
muted it, then they
she
couldn't hear it.
Doesn't have access to our USAS system to record anything. So that's why we didn't choose business manager in here. Should we?
I just thought that would be a burden off you and Rob, if she was able to take care of it. And I don't know what system you're talking about, I don't know how hard it is to get her access.
But when you get too many fingers in the pot, sometimes it's not always the best. And it's USAS system is where our inventory is recorded. So, she doesn't have access to that, so I would just
Good.
say, leave that crossed out, and then it would just be Rob and I, or superintendent and treasurer. That's my suggestion.
All right. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you. Okay, she hung up, Ronnie.
Okay. Anything else, or? No action taken with it, right?
Yeah, we don't have to take any
No, I
action.
didn't think so. Now we're down to approval of February financial reports.
Can I borrow your pen? Your extra?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Abstain. Now we're down to discussion and approval of building a bullpen at the River High School baseball field, no cost to the district, which we explained earlier. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Voting is open.
Will Steve oversee that,
Yeah,
just so there's
yeah.
no
Him
issues?
and Jason's coming down to mark
Okay.
everything.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried, I'm sorry. Now I need a motion to go to executive session for discussion with the board, legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Second.
Here, text them on with this.
him
Here.
earlier?
Huh?
Did you text him earlier?
No, he told me to wait and text him when we got Benson's number. That's the cat, if you wanna call him, tell him you're ready for him. Okay, so Jerry was my first, and then, who's my,
Me.
okay, got it. Voting is open.
Already pushed it.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Let the record reflect at 8:30, we're going to executive session. Well,
Can you,
it's all you need, isn't it?
Oh, I need,
the two lines, please? Could you get a hold of them?
Was there a copy that Grievance can use?
8:30 p.m.
You didn't go through these? You show up on time to go through all these.
they need to do whatever.
Usually they give us, Rob, did you put a copy of the grievance in?
There's no attachment.
No
You
attachment.
could always give us a copy of the grievance.
It's that one, yeah, you've had it,
Where?
Hey, wait a minute, look,
We're Denny.
Well, we don't know.
Oh.
Did Connie go